Welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell, everyone. Apple hit the $2 trillion milestone yesterday, becoming the first publicly traded U.S. company ever to do so. So, Jill, let's take a deep dive on how Apple got here and how far down the road $3 trillion is. Well, Apple went public in December of 1980 at just $22 a share. Apple stayed mostly focused on being a computer company until the iPod debuted in 2001. The furious sales of this new product sent Apple's market cap to $100 billion by May of 2007. Then the next month, the iPhone debuted. It took just 3 more years before Apple was able to overtake Microsoft as the most valuable company. After longtime leader Steve Jobs left the company in 2011, Tim Cook took over as CEO. Just 2 years ago, Apple was the first U.S. company to hit a $1 trillion market cap. And yesterday, Apple made history again with its $2 trillion milestone. So, Jill, it's fun to reflect on the history of Apple. You sometimes forget that people were super hype about the iPod back in the day. I never actually owned one, but it's just amazing to think how far it's come in terms of hardware with smartphones in our hands, access to everything you can imagine. Jill, did you ever actually own an iPod?
I have owned an iPod. I feel like the theme of the last hour and a half has been like, Jill is from a different generation than Nora. But yes, I have owned an iPod. In fact, I'm in the process of moving, and I recently just found an old one in my drawer, and I thought to myself, I wonder what's even on this thing. Do I want to know? I have owned an iPod. I think what's super interesting too, about Apple and Tim Cook, specifically, is just the skepticism, right? There was some skepticism. Can Tim Cook take over this company from Steve Jobs, who was such, a pioneering figure? And he has certainly proven that he can. And there's a lot of reporting on Tim Cook and his personality and what makes him an effective leader. And one thing that I read, and it's reportedly that he told ESPN this, so take it with a grain of salt, but apparently Steve Jobs had said to him, you shouldn't try to mimic what I would do. When you're making decisions, don't think, what would Steve Jobs do? Be your own leader and make your own decisions. And he said he's taken that to heart. And clearly, he has steered this company in the right direction.
Yeah, and Jill, speaking of skepticism, even the products that Apple has launched has faced a lot of skepticism. Remember the Apple Watch when it was first launched? People were like, why do we need a smartwatch? Why do we need all these applications on our wrist? But now it sells more watches than traditional watchmakers combined. So really incredible. I do want to note that Apple is above that $2 trillion market cap as of today as well, trading above that 467, just barely above the 467 mark required for the $2 trillion market cap. So pretty incredible stuff, Jill.
Again, you do have to just admire the leadership of Tim Cook, who turned this company, Apple, into more of a services company to reduce the dependency on the iPhone. So now Apple offers Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, a focus on creating exclusive content for these fresh platforms. Nora, I have not asked you if you finished the morning show. I hope that you did, and I hope my endorsement of the show was warranted from your perspective. But I can tell you, I've spoken to 2 analysts today as I think about the morning, and all of them think Apple's future is bright. They do not think that this $2 trillion mark is overblown at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, to your point about the morning show, I have not finished it yet, not because I don't like it, because I haven't had time yet. But Jill, your recommendation is what pushed me to keep going after the first episode. But yeah, I think the concern is if there is any concern about Apple, it's very different from the concern around other big tech companies, because they have been able to diversify their business away from hardware, as you mentioned, some of the services, launch of Apple TV Plus, now starting to bundle some of those services. So concerns around the App Store, yes, but very different from the concerns around, say, Facebook, Amazon, Google about other antitrust concerns, misinformation, data privacy. It really just feels like Apple is in its own camp at this point.
Yeah, I mean, clearly investors are also not concerned about, this battle between Epic and Apple. So, pretty much shaking that off. I also think with Apple, about the AirPods as the primary example of Apple providing these products for people that they never knew that they needed.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I actually will go like days without knowing where my AirPods are. And so yesterday I was looking for them. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? I can't leave the house if I don't have my AirPods. It was like I forgot that I can actually use my phone as a phone and just put it up to my ear. But just a reminder, I mean, these things are like $250, I think, the newer model.
Yeah.
And yet Apple has figured out a way to make that a necessity for people.
Yeah, and Jill, you know what's cool is Apple doesn't necessarily feel like it has to be first to market, but they are the ones, to your point, that kind of train you to need these products. We talk about foldable phones with Samsung, for example, getting a lot of criticism. Apple is planning, perhaps, to launch one, but they don't feel like they have to be first because they feel like they can do it better than their competitors.
And after initially falling during the pandemic, Apple's stock, again, has come roaring back. So far this year, the stock has rallied more than 50%. Potential investors that see the stock price is too high for their taste are soon going to be able to get a piece of the action. At the end of this month, Apple will be splitting its stock 4 ways. It is the 5th stock split in the company's history, the last one being a 7-for-1 split in 2014. So this stock split would value each share at around $120. And Nora, that will provide more investors, a lot of retail investors, to buy Apple and could send this share price even higher.
Yeah, especially those young investors who are looking to invest in tech for the first time. Just chatter amongst my peers. People asking me, should I invest in Apple now? Should I invest in Apple? And I said, don't use me for stock advice. Just watch Cheddar and you can make your own decision if you so please.
I was going to say, Nora, what are you telling them?
Nothing, Jill, nothing. And Jill, with the establishment of 5G networks around the U.S. and the rest of the world, this technology could be the key to Apple achieving its next $1 trillion market cap. There have been multiple rumors that Apple is planning to release multiple 5G iPhones at some point this year. Experts have continually told Cheddar that the 5G revolution will usher in the next wave of groundbreaking technology. Dan Ives, for example, of Wedbush, is one of the biggest Apple bulls. He references this 5G supercycle as the next era for Apple. We're seeing all these telecom companies trying to get 5G infrastructure set up. But for us to actually experience 5G tech, we got to buy those 5G-enabled devices. And analysts think that Apple is the one to get those into our hands.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what some experts say is the future for Apple. And it's just incredible. This company has managed to diversify. It's managed to beat the pandemic. It's now even more valuable as everyone's working from home and relies on the technology. So I guess we'll see $3 trillion. We'll see when it gets here.
We'll see, Jill. And one day, Nora Ali will finish the morning show on Apple TV Plus as well.